welcome back to Rugged Mountain Homestead. My name is Sarah, and today I'm kind of playing a bit of catch up and having my weekly reset midweek. A lot of catch up going on here, and I'll get into a few of the things that I'm doing in the kitchen today. First off though, the reason I'm so behind is that I had more injections yesterday. It'll be my last time with that, and I have an upcoming appointment this week to determine which surgery I have and when. So stay tuned for an update on that. I do thank you for your continued prayers so much. It means a lot to me. I wonder if you remember these guys. This was, or is, a Lakota squash. It was grown in the garden this year. It is considered a winter squash. Really big size, as you can tell. And this one was hanging on the vine on the trellis. Then I have this Lakota squash, which was a bit smaller, but it was actually on the ground growing. And these are winter squash, meaning that the surface, their skin just hardens and they can stay in storage for several months. These were harvested in, I believe, October, September, October. It was right at that time that I was going to Virginia. So anyways, I'm going to finally do something with them. I want to get them taken care of. And what I'm going to do is that I'm using my vintage Betty Crocker picture cookbook. And I've been trying to cook a little bit more frequently out of my vintage cookbooks. I love them. I love to read cookbooks, but I just love the older recipes. And a lot of times the older cookbooks, they have things in there that'll tell you about if you don't have a certain item, substitutions, table place settings, just different uses for things that became, convenience items and ultra processed foods that people just buy as a package now. But there is a recipe in here for a New England squash pie. And I'm going to try that with this because it didn't say what type of squash to use. It just says 1 3/4 cups of strained mashed squash. Well, we love the delicata squash. We've had that. I still have a few left. We used up all of our pumpkins that we grew. I made puree out of all of that and used them for muffins and things like that Dean loves. So I'm going to use this up. Included in my reset this week, now knowing for a fact that I have surgery coming up, I want to do my meal planning based upon things that are currently in my freezer. So I'm going to use those things up so I can make space in there, and for things that come through my Azure order, I will have the freezer space up here in the house. I'm also going to be very busy trying to make things for the freezer, which brings me to my next project here. I pre-made 2 pie crusts a couple days ago. I took them out of the freezer this morning and I lined the pie pans. I'm going to be using this lined pie pan for the squash pie, and then I'm going to use this aluminum pan. I have it lined with the other pie crust, and I'm going to make a quiche and freeze it for future use. So my goals for today is to get this squash pie made, to go ahead and get a quiche made for future use for the freezer, and dinner and a few chores. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to roast this squash, so I'm going to open it up and get it roasting in the oven and get this pie making day underway. That is really nice. That's nice and bright, and there is a lot of meat in this squash here. You have all the guts, but there's a lot of meat. So I don't think I'll have any problem getting the almost 2 cups of mashed squash. you know, it smells real nice too. That's really nice. It's so big. Whew. That I worked for. Gosh, that's nice. Look at that. So now I'm going to get the guts scooped out. I'm going to put it on a paper plate because the chickens are going to love getting this. This is going to be a great treat for them. Okay, now that the squash are cleaned out and oiled and ready to go in the oven to roast, I also have this big plate of scrap that came out of there for the chickens. I have no clue what these are going to taste like, but they smell wonderful. And look how pretty that is. That is just gorgeous. So, in just a few minutes, I'm going to put those in the oven, let them roast. I will peel the skins off of them, then we'll get them mashed up, pureed, ready for the pie. In the meantime, I can go ahead and get the quiche going. I've made quiche so many times now, I could probably do it in my sleep. It's really not hard at all. It's a great way to use your eggs. I'm just going to chop up some bacon that I had and put some broccoli in there. That's really all I'm going to have for my meat is this bacon here. So I'm just going to kind of give this a rough chop just to make it into bites. Doesn't need to be perfect. This is also a great filling meal if you're low on meat. I mean, because that wasn't even a pound of bacon. That was probably like 4 slices. But once you've got them all chopped up and you lay them on the floor of your pie shell, it really kind of stretches it. Okay. Then I'm going to put a little bit of broccoli in here. This is just frozen broccoli I got from Azure. I'm just going to kind of slice them in half just to make it more manageable for the quiche. The florets that Azure sells are really small anyway. They're really nice size for things like this. But just want to slice them in half, lay them flat. And I'll also lay this in the bottom of my pie shell. This was probably half a cup. You know, you don't need to be technical on these at all. It's just basically a scrap pie, you know, to put together whatever you have left. I mean, you could use any vegetable. I just happened to be using broccoli tonight for dinner and thought, okay, I can take a little bit out of this bag and put it in my quiche. Now I'm going to take a handful of my dried red peppers, use some dried green pepper, and I'm out of cheddar cheese, so I'm going to sprinkle some Parmesan cheese. I have a little bit of Parmesan cheese left, and so I'm just going to sprinkle that on top. This is a 1/4 cup, and I'm going to sprinkle half of it now, and then the rest on the very top of the quiche. And I think I'll add a little bit of basil from the garden. And a little bit of parsley from the garden as well. And that basil smells so good. It smells like summertime. Okay, so now I'm going to take 6 eggs. I've washed them, and one at a time, I'm going to crack them and put them in our bowl here. See how pretty that is? Nice size yolk, nice and bright. And these are very fresh eggs. They're from a couple from this morning and within the past day. The hens are still laying beautifully. We have plenty of eggs. It's a blessing and a wonderful problem to have. Great protein source. And I know that they're getting higher in the stores. And you just really have to be careful now, especially with all the bird flu and all the recalls. It's just a mess. Okay, so now to these eggs, I will add some salt. And a little bit of pepper. This is white pepper. And I'm going to add some evaporated milk. Give our pie, help it be more custardy. If that's even a word. Just going to mix that up. Okay. That's nice and incorporated. I'm just going to pour it into my prepared quiche pan. Okay, now when you're making a quiche for a future date, I'm going to take this now, I'm going to put it in the freezer, and I'm going to flash freeze it. I'm probably going to leave it in there for 3 hours. Then when it's in a nice, almost completely solid form, I'm going to go ahead and put this little cardboard piece that came with it on here. I'm going to wrap it in plastic wrap and then in aluminum foil. Okay, these Lakota squash, they just roasted up beautifully. You know that they're ready when you take your knife and you can gently poke right into it, because we're going to let these cool and then peel the skins off so that all we have left is the beautiful squash inside. These really smell heavenly. If they didn't take up so much room, I would grow them again this year. Okay, I'm going to get caught up on the dishes from doing all these earlier, and then I want to sit down for a quick chat. Okay, well, I guess we're going to have our chat while I'm making dinner and the squash pie, because as always this week I'm running late. Going to do something super simple, just going to do a homemade beef and broccoli for dinner with some rice, and that should be plenty for the two of us. We're going to make this New England squash pie, and here's why I've been feeling kind of rushed and just behind. Monday, Josie was out here running around and she got her toenail caught on something, and it is actually sticking out 90 degrees from her paw. So we were at the vet better half of the day on Monday, and we're doing a round of antibiotics, and you know, we did a Epsom salt bath, and we're spraying silver on it, honey silver. So that was Monday. And then so yesterday we had doctor's appointments, and I got my injections, and we'll find out this coming Monday more information about surgery, but it is definitely on the horizon. And so I'm trying to get meals in the freezer for that time. As of today, you know, since I don't know the date yet, I'm going to go ahead and just prepare for, you know, 4 to 6 weeks of meals recovery time. So I'm trying to like write things down and see what that looks like. You know, breakfast, dinners, do lunches, leftovers from whatever dinner. You know, you gotta be up on coffee creamer because I make that homemade, and muffins, and just all the things, you know, to last for that amount of time. I've never prepared for any type of meal planning for longer than 10 days. So we'll just have to see, but I'm kind of feeling a little bit of angst about it all. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on dinner. And then we will go ahead and get this squash pie made. That's what I'm gonna call this, just a ketchup. Now for this beef and broccoli stir fry type meal, I'm just going to use some of our flat iron steak from our beef share. And I will just cut it thin into strips. And then I will just cut them again on the diagonal, just so they're not too big. Cut that down the middle again. Okay, I'm gonna take this over to the skillet. Got my cast iron skillet here, ready to go, all nice and hot. Just over medium-low heat. I'm gonna add a little salt to this. And again, I just kind of make it up as I go. I'm definitely gonna be using a good bit of liquid aminos. I'll kind of make, it's not a gravy, but you know, kind of like a sauce to get all blended in there. I'm going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of ginger. I just covered the meat in the liquid aminos. I'm definitely going to put some garlic powder in and some onion powder, but the granules anyway, but I'm still going to go ahead and chop some up. And some celery and peppers. Okay, so this is my dried celery stalk. This is really strong, so I don't go overboard on the celery stalk. Green pepper, red pepper. And so for just a minute, we'll just let this kind of cook. Stir it all up together nicely. And we're going to need some more liquid aminos, and we'll put just a little splash of lemon juice in as well. Okay, so now while this browns and gets cooked and the dehydrated veggies soft, I'm going to go ahead and chop my onions and garlic. I'm going to put just a super quick dash of our homegrown cayenne powder. Well, homegrown cayenne peppers that we turned into powder. I mean, just a quick dash, because that stuff looks fire hot. Half a cup of rice in. This little pot just seems to make the perfect rice. I am actually really looking forward to our Azure order coming up, because this is my last onion. Granted, they are large, but I don't like getting down to the last of anything. And I will save those peels for broth. And I'm only going to do 2 slices. This is a rather large onion, but maybe 3. That should be enough. We're not getting our Azure order until the second week of February, the week of February 9. So I have to be really careful about rationing out that onion. Wrong burner up, and then had them backward. It smells delicious. Okay, so now on to the New England squash pie. And I have a feeling that all this squash cooked up to more than 1 3/4 cups. That could probably be done with this alone. I just went ahead and peeled it as it was cooling. This is all really nice and tender. What a beautiful color. Okay, so I got quite a bit out of there. I have a pint and a 1/2 pint jar of squash puree. So now that I have the right measurement, I'll just go ahead and put it back into the mixing bowl, because this is what I'm gonna put the rest of the ingredients in as well. So we have the 1 3/4 strained mashed squash in our mixing bowl. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of salt. Oops. 1 1/2 cups milk. Came up just a little short on that, so I will top it up with a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Two large eggs. What's funny about this cookbook is it says 2 large eggs, but underneath of it says 1/2 cup. Mine, it brings it to just right under 1/2 cup. 1 cup of sugar. 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. It has all the different spices listed out, but I have them all in this pumpkin spice seasoning blend that I do. So I'll just put 2 teaspoons in there. And 1 tablespoon of butter. Okay, friends, I think that's going to do it for me for this evening. What I've done is that I've taken what I currently have in the freezer in the kitchen, and next week I'm going to be making all my meals from that. I know that surgery is coming up. I meet with the surgeon on Monday to find out all the details and schedule and all that kind of stuff. So I'll have more information then. I'm going to go ahead and schedule to do a live either next Friday or the end of the month. I'll put it out on our community page so you can kind of just let me know what would suit your schedule best. So even though I'm kind of out of my routine, and I'm just getting started, it feels like, in the middle of the week. Today's Wednesday. I did get tonight's dinner done and a blackberry cobbler. We made a quiche together for future use, and the New England squash pie. So each day I think that I'm just going to go ahead and prep a meal for future use, just so I will have everything on hand for breakfasts and dinners and all the extras. And I thank you guys so much for all your kindness, love, prayers, everything being sent my way. It really does mean the world to me.